their coaches will just shout at you like for no apparent reason. You'll be like, what did I do? It wasn't even my fault. You know, official appeal has money involved. So to my knowledge, it's 150 euros, which will be invoiced directly to your national federation.
In short, they've got somebody with traditional wisdom, which can so-called control the weather. So like, yeah, it's all fixed. Then we were like, yeah, okay, thank you, but the reason we have to cancel the competition was literally, if you look at the border wall, the water is seeping out. And you can see that it's like literally like the border was crying, through the boat holes.
Welcome to another episode of the That's Not Real Climbing podcast. I'm your host, Jenny, and I'm excited to announce another double guest episode with Stanley and Zulazfar. Stanley is an IFSC event delegate and judge chair, while Zul is officially a newly minted IFSC judge. In this episode, we'll talk about how to become an IFSC judge, hear about their relationships and interactions with athletes, coaches, and route setters, and we'll hear some crazy stories about their judging experiences under pressure and canceling events due to rain like in Keqiao. Hope you enjoy this episode with Stanley and Zul. Stanley, you sort of recently got back from Paris and also, I think you said Saudi Arabia?
Yes, Saudi Arabia as well.
How are those travels?
All right, so definitely Paris. Well, I think we were in the Olympics for the second time, but, Tokyo Olympics, due to COVID, we've got no spectators. So it was really like a closed door event, but Paris is totally different. You have the spectators and you have your friends being there. I mean, we've got some of the coaches who are not involved in the Olympics, some of the event organizers whom we have been working with, and even the paraclimbing athletes as well. They were also there. So it was like really like a gathering. Then of course, work relation wise, we work with, it's a very different dynamics in the Olympics compared to the World Cup. In the World Cup, the organizers are applying to host the IFSC event. So we have a list of requirements and specifications that they need to follow. But in a multi-sport event, it's totally different. Us as the IF goes in as one of, I would say, a vendor who's trying to showcase the sport to the world, but the properties belongs to the multi-sports events organization, in this case, the IOC. So the dynamics is quite different. Getting things done requires, I would say, a bigger group approval. So yeah, so it's really very interesting in terms of working with the different stakeholders for the two different events compared to the IFSC event.
I heard from Olga, like the route setter, that the organization at the Olympics was way better than the organization at any like World Cup event that she's ever done.
Definitely, I would say that in terms of the organization, it is really, really good. But of course, the timeliness is something that is very important because the event is so big, so prestigious, and the stakes are really high. Think about it. You have VIPs like the King of Spain that is here. So there are certain things that is also that we need to start to learn to tolerate. Like, for example, I think we have access to a lounge for the officials, but the lounge is not open until 3 days before the competition starts. The route setting team is there 7 to 5 days before the competition to do route setting. So that means that the days before the lounge was open, the route setters actually have some challenges trying to bring in additional drinks and food as well. So bringing food in is okay, but you can't really bring big can of energy drinks inside because you'll be stopped by the security. Yeah. So there are certain challenges which we encounter, and that we need to really try to be a bit more understanding and work around all these restrictions. In the World Cup, we are used to sometimes having things like, oh, if I need to get something, I go buy, I bring it in, it's fine. But here there is restriction, there is accessibility, there is certain limitation, which I would say that if you are at a multi-sports event, whether it is the Olympics or the Pan American Games, the Asian Games, there would always be this restriction that we have to bear in mind. For example, rule setting. Maybe in the World Cup, you could, if everybody agrees, you probably will be able to rule set until past midnight. But in a multi-sports events, probably there would be some certain time restrictions that you need to adhere to. So it could be like, okay, you probably need to leave by 12 o'clock. Yeah, for example, because there could be security clearance at the end of each day. So all this has to be coordinated. And when we look at a broader view, it's not just us working, but there's like probably 101 teams that is actually working to ensure that the event runs.
There's a lot of protocols also, right? So I think just want to touch quickly a bit on the OQS. So I think a couple of people were like watching on stream and they were like, why do they have tapes all over their uniforms, right? It's all covering the North Face logos and all that. It's all this because of this. It's all protocol. And and that's like the last minute thing. Like, oh, we can't be showing this, so you better tape it up. So I think it's pretty normal in that sense. But of course, for Paris, it's slightly different because you already have a new set of uniforms. So that and I think to touch on that also, actually in the IFSC World Cups and all that, they have specifications as to how big your logo can be. So there are different rulings for that. So it's not just I can just slap one whole North Face logo on the back and that's it. No.
Okay, and then we'll get into the Olympics a bit more later as well. But I guess before we dive too deep into things, what roles do you each have in the IFSC, and what do you do for your role?
For me, I'm an event delegate with the IFSC, so I work closely with the event organizing team to manage the climbing competitions. I mainly look at the pre-planning, the logistics, and facilities of the event. So my work would usually be taking place 1 or 2 months before the IFSC World Cup takes place. When the event starts, it's more for the jury president who will be managing the overall competition. Then during the competition, a big part of my role would be working with the broadcasting team and the award ceremony team to make sure that everything goes according to the requirements of the IFSC.
I am the IFSC judge, so newly minted, I guess, this year officially. For the longest time, I was doing a lot more continental events. But this year, officially, I've done at least one World Cup, going to another one in a couple of weeks' time, for that to be specific.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, and then, so basically IFSC judge, it's very different from what Stanley does, right? So he does a lot of pre-planning, behind the scenes kind of thing. For me, I'm a lot more front-facing. So I deal mainly on the field of play, what you call FOP. That's literally the area around the wall, the coaches area, every single thing or structure there is under my control. That includes dealing with appeals directly with your coaches, right? So primarily my job will be to supervise the national technical officials or whether your national judges, so on and so forth, right? So it's more on a supervisory role where let's say for qualifications and semifinals, they typically do the actual judging. I'm just gonna oversee, supervise. Let's say they have any questions, or let's say some coach can tell me, it's like, hey, I think your scoring is wrong. Maybe there's a data input issue or whatsoever, and that's where I will go into rectify. So from a hierarchy point of view, I report to the jury president, which is now an IFSC level 4 judge.
And I guess, Stanley, did you used to judge? I thought there was some sort of relation there.
All right. Yeah. So sorry. So other than being an event delegate for the IFSC, I'm also the chair for the IFSC Judge Commission. The Asian Council, I also lead the sports department in the development of competitions and officials in Asia. Yeah, so a bit more about me. I was a national judge back in 2004 in Singapore. That's where the federation decided to invite then the head of the Rules Commission from IFSC. IFSC was still part of UIA to conduct the national judge course. Fast forward 1 year later, the international judge course was organized in Austria. So I went to take the course. I passed the test and I had to do 2 practical. So you have to cover lead, and speed in 2 competitions. My lead and speed in the Youth World Championship in Beijing. That was the first time where the Youth World Championship was being held in Asia. And then in 2006, I completed my bowling internship in Birmingham, UK. Yeah, so after that, that's where I became an IFSC judge. So I came through the IFSC judge track, like what Zul is currently doing. So from in 2016, 2017, I was IFSC jury president, and also in 2021, I became the IFSC event delegate.
Okay, so we'll get into like the timeline of how that works in a bit. But I guess starting from the beginning, this is kind of like a volunteer position. So what made you guys interested in joining?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, so it's quite a long history and story in that sense, where basically back then, okay, so Stanley mentioned that it started around 2004. That was literally the year I started climbing, literally. All right, that's a good 20 years ago, 2 decades ago. So I started climbing when I was in secondary school, which is your equivalent of a high school, I believe. It was just like a co-curricular activity, just to go there and climb. It was for an outdoor club kind of thing. And then, so that was a good 4 years. So once I ended that 4 years of high school, I went to Polytechnic. It's like that's where I got my diploma, basically. And that was technically where I officially met Stanley, right? So it's more of like, so I mean, aside from timeline itself, so a good 6 years about after I started climbing, so 2008, I was part of the climbing club in Polytechnic. So what happened was one day they were like, we have a national judges course. It's free. Do you want to attend? And I'm like, oh, okay, sure. Why not? Like, I mean, it's free. So Singaporeans like free stuff.
Okay. And
then we were like, oh, okay. So we took it. I think the cohort was quite huge. There was a good 10, 15 of us. But ironically, only 2 of us are left. So again, I think to your question, I think after a while, we've been doing, so once we cleared the national judges course, right? So we did what we could, we clocked our mileage, and then over time we'd be like, I think we can kind of say the same for some others. For one, back then, years ago, 10 years ago, right? The climbing industry was not as commercialized as it is today, right? So it's almost like the only thing you can do, right? It was the only hobby you can have. It was so niche. Everyone was like, "Oh, well, you're a rock climber, you're a sport climber." Everyone gets so excited when they hear about it. But then now we be like, everyone's climbing. It's like, now climbing is like the new spin class, right?
Okay.
To be really honest, right? So, but more importantly, I felt that on my own, on my personal level, I was thinking like, you know what? If I really invested so much time in this, why not just go all the way, right? And I think from a voluntary perspective, ever since I started working, I spent a good 3/4 of my paid time off or your annual leave
Oh, wow.
all on climbing competitions.
Wow.
3/4. Yeah, it's a lot of dedication, a lot of sacrifice for sure. But I think at the end of the day, it depends on what you want. I think some people, to be really honest, I just want to climb and call it a day. Have fun, jump here, jump there. That's about it. But I think on my end, I think one of the most important motivations for me is also to bring the sport to the next level. I think we always have this issue in Asia specifically, right? Like we're always trying to go after the Europeans, not in a bad way, but the Europeans are always known to be like at the top of their level for climbing, for example. So we kind of want to reach there to some extent. Of course, we have our usual superstars like your Sogato, your Tomo, and all that, but that's on athlete level. But we're looking more on a continent level, So I think it's pushing the standards also nationally on a local level. Like, of course, we're not as big as like the USA, but then there's a lot of resistance to change for sure, right? Commercial gym owners only think about money most of the time. I mean, you're a business owner, I cannot blame you. But then to them, you'd be like, how do I balance between making money and also pushing the standards of climbing in Singapore, for example? So there's a lot of different variables, a lot of factors, but I think more often than not, it's always to push the standards, at least for me.
Well, so Zul mentioned earlier he was studying in Polytechnic. So that's a college in Singapore that offers a degree program. That offers diploma programs. Interestingly, 5 years ago, I was in that position in that same college.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
So climbing was really new back then. We were one of 2 tertiary institutions that were organizing climbing competitions back then. So I started to get involved. We have annual competitions, Rockmania. I started to get involved. I was helping out with judging work as an assistant. From there, I start to look at climbing, not just as climbing, but as an event itself. I get really curious about the concept behind the rules, how the competitions are managed. So I started to really look and start to learn from people that I've known. My mentor, so he was back then considered a national judge because he's like probably the pioneer batch who received training from the French Federation. So the French Singapore invited the French Federation to be here to actually conduct training from them. So I had to learn a lot from him until the opportunity came that, hey, we are getting the federations, getting the Rules Commission head, Mr. OK Nelson, to be here to conduct judge training course. And I thought, it's a good opportunity for me to actually learn more. So throughout the process, it's always about trying to learn more and seeing how I can contribute, but without really a clear destination in mind. It's like I'm just happy to be involved because from the training course, from the competitions, you meet people who share the same interests with you. You work with people who are aligned to develop the sports of climbing, and it's like, yeah. So that was the thing that just kept me going until now.
For people who may be interested in getting involved in some way, do you have to like know someone, or is there like a clear process for how to, I guess, become involved at like an IFSC level or like a judging level?
To start off with judging, I would suggest that go to Croatian National Federation. I believe most national federation would have organized some training course. They would probably have a development roadmap for the judges, the skills framework. Yeah, so that's the best way to start. Different federations would have different levels of the judge structure. We over here in Singapore, we have two. Know that in US you have about five different levels. Yeah, so depending on the geographic location and the requirement. So for the candidate to be eligible for a IFSC course, you probably would need to be at the highest level. I know that every now and then IFSC would communicate to the national federations about any upcoming national IFSC judge courses. We had two this year. Was it this year or last year? Yeah, one was held last year. One was held in Singapore for the Asian and Oceania prospects, and the other one was held in Pan America in preparation for the Santiago Games as well. Yeah, so the National Federation should have the information. Then they will then look into the list of officials. They probably would have an evaluation system in place to evaluate and see, okay, who can I send for this training course. And if you cleared the training course, we'll have a theoretical course, and there will be some internship where you'll be working as a trainee IFSC judge in the competitions. And if the assessment is favorable, then that's where you become an IFSC judge level 1. So level 1 IFSC judge would allow you to be working as the equivalent of IFSC judge in a continental event. Level 2 would be a jury president level, working in the continental events. For the IFSC judges that are nominated for the World Cup, they are sitting at level 3, and the jury presidents at level 4.
And Zul, you're like kind of, I guess, newer to doing like official IFSC judging. Is there anything that kind of surprised you about judging at the IFSC level?
The difference between IFSC and any other level is, of course, we always train our judges in such a way that we tell them, like, you are running a show. And you are running a show because you have live streaming, right? If you scroll up on the live stream for the world to see, literally. Right? And I think that is one biggest factor with regards to all the differences of all the events. Of course, sure, you can say nationals will have their own live streaming, so on and so forth, but I think the amount of spectators, online viewers looking or watching your live stream for World Cup, it's a lot more significant, obviously, right? So, and that's also where you don't end up becoming a laughing stock online for some reason.
Well, I don't think there's too many opportunities to become to really mess up too bad as a judge, are there?
Yes.
Well, I
and
guess, yeah,
no.
maybe.
Yes and no. But I mean, I think we can talk a bit more later about appeals and all that. So I think that would be the most obvious way of screwing up, right? But I think at the IFSC level, it's you're dealing with people who you've never met. Of course, if I'm from Asia, obviously I met Asian coaches, right? But then you're dealing with like the Americans, the Europeans, Oceania, all the different continents and all that. So these people are literal strangers to you. So you don't know them, they don't know you. And it's been, I wouldn't say it's an open secret in that sense, but rather they probably test you. Right? They will try to see whether, this guy is new. So can I actually take advantage of him? Like, can I make his life difficult recently?
Sketchy, okay.
Yeah. So you look at how Stanley's laughing. So that's evident that it happens, right? And I think that happens throughout. I mean, to put it very, very bluntly, it's really unforgiving. It's a lot of pressure. Every competition has its pressure for sure, but on a World Cup level, I think it's immense, right? Because I mean, maybe it's also it's a personal thing. Like I don't want to fail, I don't want to make mistakes. It's a self-imposed kind of thing. But then, I mean, I personally always try to strive for the best anyway. So yeah, it's a lot of things to worry about, basically.
Yeah, do you remember a time where you felt like a coach was taking advantage of you or trying to pull something?
Oh
on you?
yeah, sure, but sure, yes. I think it's not say taking an advantage in that sense where I think they will constantly breathe down your neck. They will be like always asking for certain things, like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Like they probably tell you this, test you to see whether will you actually abide to it or will you actually, I guess, contest and go against his words and say no, we're not going to do that. That sort of thing. I mean, basically, they're trying to see whether you can be a pushover, right? And then at the same time, there are certain instances where they'll be like, say, hey, this is IFSC, why are you doing this? You know, like it's like, okay, let's do it. Like, you know, it's like there's a reason why I'm doing this, you know. And then at the same time, there are coaches who will just shout at you like for no apparent reason. You'll be like, what did I do? It wasn't even my fault, you know. But it's just in the spur of the moment, right? At the end of the day, we have to understand that I think first things first, we cannot take it personally. And I think that is a very key, important trait that judges should have because at the end of the day, these people are coaches. They are in charge of athletes and they want the best out of the athletes. It's a competition, for goodness sake. It's not a carnival, right? So, and then of course they will be shouting at you and all that. But then once the event is done, then you'll be like, hey, you can talk to them as fans.
Okay, that's nice.
That's the beauty of it, right? But then, of course, sometimes there needs to be that. You could say you may start on a wrong foot for some of them, right? But then after that, you'd be like, then maybe after the call, maybe you can talk to them, kind of iron out certain things. I see we did this because of this. Sometimes, because at the end of the day, you have to understand that they are also kind of gated at where they are, where they're seated. They have a coach's area and they only see whatever they see, right? They don't know our perspective and neither do we, right? We could have the freedom to walk all over the place, but then they're only in one place. And considering some of them are in isolation for a couple of hours, they'll be like grumpy old men or whoever. So, or maybe not old, some of them quite young. So anyway, you get my point, right? So, yeah.
You probably have more grumpy man element still. You still one more event.
Yeah. So anyway, Yeah, so I think, yeah. So it's I think the pressure. I think if I had to summarize the pressure on at doing IFSC level, it's immense. Yeah, I mean you don't want to screw up, that's one, and then at the end of the day you want to have a good show. But more importantly, because you like for me, people always say that like, oh, okay, you're an IFSC judge and all that. But then I said, you don't know the amount of things I sacrificed to get to where I am. That's one. And doesn't quite help when you're training under this guy. So it's like, everyone's like, oh, so you know Stanley? It's like, yeah, you know Stanley? Yes, I do. And then you'd be like, oh, Stanley, then suddenly immediately for some things, then there's this ceiling of expectations, which I've never seen before. And then you'd be like, okay, I guess I have to meet that ceiling then. Yeah, so it's that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize. But to be clear, I got to where I am based on my own merits as well, right? So he did what he could, but there's no nepotism or whatever. I just want to make it clear on record. Yes.
Okay. So Stanley's tough. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you remember any times where you feel like you made a wrong call or that you messed up?
So I think for me, before I got promoted to IFSC, I had to do two assessments. So one of it was the Salt Lake City competition World Cup in 2023 last year, and also one multi-sport event, which is our Continental Games, which is Asian Games last year as well. So two events as part of my assessment. Largely, I would say Asian Games are still okay. Wrong big screw up, I guess. But Salt Lake City, I wouldn't say it's a screw up per se, because actually there was an appeal involved, right? So I'll send you the timestamps later. I already have it prepared. So it was during the men's bowler finals, and then of all people, it had to be Sorato, right? It's like first time seeing this on the circuit, and then anyway, so it wasn't okay. Objectively, it's a normal appeal. Objectively, it's a normal appeal, because why? It's just like, okay, the judge made a wrong call, which was me. I can admit that. But then what made it a bit more serious in that sense was because the commentators spent like a good 3 to 5 minutes talking about how the appeal was. Yeah, so I think no shit on the commentators for sure. I love Matt. I love Megan Martin was the co-commentary, right? So she was like saying, "Oh no, I was a bit surprised why the judge did not do this, blah blah blah." And then, of course, she did justify and say, like, I love my judges and all that, and it's just perfectly fine. It's just that when I look the whole stream, I was like, bloody hell, it's a good 5 minutes talking about my appeal. And then, so, but what was interesting is that, so that was one main thing that it kind of bound me for sure. But I think the key thing that happened was, so basically the gist of the appeal was that, so Suato went to do a 4-point start, but it was so fast that I didn't catch it. So I deemed it as a proper 4-point start. So later on, when you look at the video, you will see the actual screen, which is on 1 time speed, which is normal. And then there's another timestamp which they give on the slow-mo version. And even after looking at the slow-mo version, it's kind of like, okay. But long story short, what happened was, why I didn't call him down was because at my angle, I saw him as a proper 4-point start. So my style of judging for finals, so for context, qualification, semi-finals, IFSC judge do not do the judging physically. You're doing more on a supervisory role, but on a finals, you need to do the actual judging. Right, so for at least at the point of time in Salt Lake City, as I'll say, what we did was, so I was judging with all the other USKC judges. So I believe, I'm not too sure whether you know, but they have this system where you have a primary, secondary, tertiary judge. So there were 4 of us, in fact 5, I think. And these are all senior judges together with me judging, right? So my style for finals at least, it differs from judges to judges, obviously. So my style is like, okay, the moment the athlete gets a zone, depending on the attempt, let's say, I will just voice out and say zone on 2, meaning the person gets a zone on the second attempt. Because sometimes your attempt might be mismatched. Maybe the thought was 3, mine was 2, 1, so on and so forth. Right? So that's my style. So when that thing happened, so obviously we were also taken aback. I was like, hey, what's with the delay? And then I was like, okay, next thing you know, I said that at that point of time, the JB was Team Hatch from Britain. And it was like, came out, I was like, there's going to be an appeal. So you're going to stand by. Like, okay. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, shit, which appeal is this? And then after that, when they came out, when he reclined and all that, I just took that brief moment to check with my judges, like, do you actually see him start? Then all of us agreed that we saw him start properly. It's just that it was so fast to the naked eye, you couldn't see. So I'm like, okay, I mean, to be fair, the JP was reviewing the video on a CCTV, which had like, I don't know, 10 times slow-mo function, which, I mean, come on, man, if I could be a Terminator, then yeah, maybe I should do that. But other than that, yeah. But, you know, at the end of the day, this kind of things, shit happens. And I wouldn't say I'm happy. I'm okay to admit that I potentially did that mistake, or maybe I did that mistake, but I think sometimes it's almost inevitable. But then more importantly, what's the takeaway, right? So what do you learn from that? So I was also considering looking at the stream itself, and I was realizing actually it could be potentially because of the position we were sitting. Right, so like let's say the wall is here, we want to seated at maybe a 45-degree angle, and it could be from the stream, it looked like he didn't start. So that could be it. Or maybe the solution was just to have me sit on the left side, for example. And moving forward, that's what I've been doing since day one. So it's like, you kind of learn from all this. So yeah, it's like, well, it happens.
Can't wait to watch it back and see what it looks like. Yeah. Stanley, anything from your side on any time you fucked up?
Well, I think judging-wise, it's been a long time because my current role, I haven't really been doing a lot of judging. If you ask me now, I can't really recall. But honestly, every time after a competition, on the way to the airport, on the plane, I've always been just reflecting and been asking myself, like, okay, is there something that I could have done better in this case? Yeah, so even like working with the stakeholders, it's going back is, okay, I think this decision, this is the right decision. Would I have done it better if given the chance, you know? So yeah, that is constantly that processing that. But even if there's things I think that I did right, again, it's also to just think about it. Yeah, so for me, at this point, not so much of judging related decisions that I can call. Yeah.
Okay. So judging is also kind of closely connected to route setting because how they set up the zones and the tops kind of makes a difference in terms of how you're going to judge it. Is there anything that you hate that route setters do?
Wow, that's a really interesting question.
Please excuse this brief intermission, but I've gotten a few requests for this, so I just wanted to announce that if you're interested in helping support the show, my Patreon page is now live. Some perks include ad-free, interruption-free episodes, deleted scenes, prioritized guest questions, or the ability to submit video questions, an enamel pin shipped to you after 2 months of membership, and much more to come. The proceeds go back into the podcast to help me break even, and they help improve the experience of the guests. If you'd like to support the podcast non-monetarily, liking, commenting, and sharing helps a great deal as well. Back to the show.
To be honest, too many coordination. So you see, when you have a coordination group, right? So there's a lot of jumping or a jump starts specifically, and maybe it's just a preference thing. So it's like we have a score sheet, or maybe physical. Nationally, we have a physical score sheet, but then on the IFSC level, that is you have a tablet, right? So it'll be like each time a person jump, you'll be like it's like slot tapping and tapping and tapping and tapping. It's like 20 different attempts. You'll be like, when is this gonna end? So that's probably one of it. But I think largely maybe Stanley would have a different perspective on this, but because I'm working on the ground itself, I think it's not inherently something that I dislike or I hate, but I think it's more of finding that compromise most of the times. So it could be as simple as, but sometimes the route setters tend to think of it from a moves point of view, like okay, this move, that move, that. But for us, we need to make that zone, or let's say for lead, right? It has to be tangible because you have to issue or rather allocate a specific point or number to it. So some there you'll be like, oh, okay, but this move, I need to do this, I need to match, and then therefore this becomes a duo hole. It's like for duo holes, basically the judge's nightmare, because the moment that duo hole gets broken, it's going to change the whole topo effectively, right? Of course, it might be a simple change, just a reduction of one number, but then once appeals come in, and then you'll be like, okay, so that's another whole new game. But long story short, I think there are certain things that they do in terms of good setting where I think I think Salt Lake City had this show where they tried to do some kind of indication on the route about how they should start the route. I can't find that video. I need to find it. So basically, I think they wanted somebody to kind of do a 4-point start, like in a handstand kind of start. I don't know how that works, but so what they did was they fixed like 4 or 5 screw-on holes in the shape of a man, like inverted man, like doing a handstand. It's almost like an indication of how to start.
I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, then I didn't know about it, interestingly, because I was so busy running around. And then only after the event, they were like saying, oh, actually, they actually changed the route. I'm like, what do you mean they changed the route? I was there the whole time. How did I not know? But maybe once I get that footage, I'll probably send it to you. But sometimes they do things very funnily in their own ways, I guess. Yeah. But I think no props to them for sure. They have the toughest jobs for sure, and that's also why they get paid a lot more than we do. But I think fundamentally, I don't hate them, to be really honest. It's always nice working with them. But I think it's always the compromises that you have to take. Like, okay, can we do this instead? Can we tape it? Can we tape the zone on the channel hole instead of the volume, for example? Maybe it could be the nuances of certain things. Like, what if I do this move, my leg swings, and I touch on this? Can this be avoided? Or even down to as simple as, can we shift that mic nearer? Would it hit the athletes in the face? Or that sort of thing. So it's a lot of communication involved, but I wouldn't say that inherently there's a thing that I don't like. Yeah.
Well, working with the route setter, sometimes people may deem it as what I call the hateful relationship thing. We are here trying to make sure that we follow the protocols, the requirements, the rules. Route setters are a bunch of really creative people.
Yeah.
I really admire their creativity. So it's more of like, where does this creativity has a limit? Because what Zul says earlier, they're trying the banks come up with original moves. We were actually judging, we were actually joking about, are there any more original moves that the centers can make? Yeah. So yes, it's really cool if you really can come up with something that is unique, really original. But there are times where things get a bit off, and even to some of the coaches, it's like, hey, what is this? This is not really climbing. It's not parkour. It's a bit like circuits, So that is where sometimes we need to come in and again be that moderator sometimes to check, like, okay, do you think this is appropriate? Likewise, probably for speaking for the jury president, the judges, is like, okay, the starting position, the zone, is that appropriate? Or can we just make some changes to the zone? Maybe this is not that easy to judge. Or we foresee certain problems with this zone. Are we able to move around? And actually having a discussion with them sometimes, I would say most of them are actually quite accommodating. So working with the IFSC setters is quite interesting because, well, you think that they are a bunch of people who's always working with metal screws and looking at wood, right? And maybe they think like wood, they are not. They don't just go around just doing resetting work. I find that a lot of them are actually very insightful. They are very knowledgeable. Some of them, we had very interesting discussion about talking about the sustainability of the climbing industry because, with the post and everything, after 10 years, if you have a gym, after 10 years, after 15 years, what do you do with the rules? Can it be recycled? So the IFSC setters, I realized that a lot of them are actually thinking very far ahead. Beyond their technical skills. What I realized are the challenges are working with setters that are starting out and are starting to developing into or aspiring to be IFSC resetters. Because many a times what they see is they just see what is on YouTube, what's on the big screen, and they start to mimic without really thinking or asking why. And that's where problem comes in. It's like, well, when we are doing in local competitions, when we realize something that's a bit off, we start to ask questions. It's like, it can't really have a concrete rationale to why they do that. And then it makes it very difficult, especially when it is something that pertains to safety. Where who guys do you think this is safe? Example, if you have a volume, you only have half, and the volume is on the sidewalk, and you only have half the volume secured on the climbing wall, and the other half that is exposed. To me, it is a safety hazard, that could have been avoided. Right. So this is not talking about a technical. This is not about just a route safety issue anymore. It's about a general safety issue. So it was like, oh, but so and so does this, so and so does that, so and so stack up volumes on volumes on volumes. Yeah, but when you ask deeper, you realize that they probably only know this much, and that is actually a challenge with us. And sometimes when we try to talk to them, they will probably look at us, so are you trying to impose what you have learned from IFSC competitions to the local competition? But it's two different standards. So it's like, we're not talking about standards here, but we are talking about general safety. Yeah, so that is the challenge that I realized working with new aspiring route setters.
So yeah, that's sort of like the relationship with route setters. And then in terms of your relationship with coaches, I guess, first of all, how does the appeals process work? And then we'll get into your angry coach stories or whatever you have there.
And maybe I'll take this one. So okay, I think first and foremost, on any level, at the very least, you have two types of appeals. One, your verbal appeal, or rather unofficial appeal, and your official appeal. So verbal appeals are typically during the round itself. So let's say during qualifications, they realize their athletes got a wrong score, maybe not number of times different, so on and so forth. So the coach can come to me and say like, hey, I think there's a mistake with my climber. So and so, I think you should be getting, let's say if it's a lead event, she should be getting a plus, and they'll be like, oh, okay. So sometimes it is an actual error on our end or the judge's end because it's manual input on the tablet, right? So for IFSC, we use the tablet which links to the verticalized system. So it could be like, oh, actually, I forgot to put a plus inside. And obviously on my end, so I have to check, is this 25 plus or is it 25? Your paper puts 25 plus, but on this live score, it says 25. So that's where I rectify, right? So that is your kind of your verbal appeal. So it's a bit more casual, right? Or it could be as simple as, oh, I think that Belayer is giving too much slack. So that counts as verbal appeal in that sense, right? So I think for that context, in the rules, there's also the safety appeal, which can be done by 3 coaches, separate coaches. If they write in and say there is a safety appeal, we must act on it. The JPSO, right? Basically, but this doesn't happen most of the time. Anyways, so officials, then you have your officials appeal. So official appeal is basically after the event ends. That's where you require to submit your appeal form with your name, which country you're representing. If there's a particular box, I can send you a link where to see this actual form, the ones that the coaches are actually using it. You have to indicate the reason why. So let's say, for example, using the example, my athlete so-and-so should be getting a 25 plus. And on top of that, they have to quote the article number in the rule book based on whatever reason. So let's say, based on article number so-and-so, the climbers hip shifted, there was a change in mass of hips, move in the direction of the route, progressive movement of the route, so on and so forth, and then therefore you should be getting a 25 plus, for example. And then you have to sign and submit. So official appeal for qualification and semi-finals is within 5 minutes. For finals, it's immediate. So for finals, because it's podium, right, you're talking like money, prize money, and so on and so forth. So more often than not, some athletes, some coaches, they will tell you in advance, I'm going to appeal. I'm like, okay. Then because that appeal decision will be against my decision, so I won't be handling it. If you'll be handling it, right? So what happens would be some of them will give you the heads up. That's one. Some of them will be already waiting down there. It's like DHL giving you the form. So official appeal has money involved. So to my knowledge, it's 150 euros, which will be...
Oh, it's pretty expensive.
Yes, it's $150, which will be invoiced directly to your national federation once it's approved. So in that event where the appeal fails, it's rejected basically, you lose that 150 euros.
And so then what's your relationship like with coaches? Do you feel like they ever hold grudges against you if they remember who you are? Or do you know of any coaches that will just cause you a lot of trouble?
I think we are still alive here. So what I think is that the relationship should be considered quite cordial.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it depends also. So I think, again, to be fair, I'm new. So I'm still on the way to build that rapport. I mean, unlike Stanley, he really knows all these people, and he's also not really doing the judging part. But for me, I'm still making my way there. Trying to keep the contact, network with them, talk to them as much as possible, introduce myself after the com and all that. But thankfully, there are certain coaches, which obviously from the Asian region, right? Because every other time we look at them. So let's say for Team Japan, everyone loves Team Japan. Obviously, I know the coaches. They also know me. And sometimes I don't believe I have any, or rather, no coach tend to have any grudges with me, from what I know. But I think the relationship wise can be easy if you know them. That's the thing, because I think there's a lot of relationship involved in that sense, where not like a boyfriend girlfriend kind of thing, but more like mutual respect. Because sometimes like they can go up to you and be like, oh yeah, when my guy forgot his accreditation card. You'll be like, oh, okay, sure, but like you don't immediately penalize them in that sense. Like you kind of, okay, you take note that I'll do what I can. And then for example, I'll give you a very, very clear example of what happened again Salt Lake City, again with Team Japan. So Hiroshi-san, the head coach for Team Japan, was one sitting at the bench, or whether the coaches area, right? So one of his athletes, the Japanese athlete, was gonna top the route, or was climbing. I think there was a side wall that had a boundary tape right below the handhold. So what happened was, like, my judge went up. Obviously, she went over the line, so obviously had to call her up down. Then my judge came to tell her, call her off, basically, right? And for some strange reason, I happened to make eye contact with him, and all I did was like line like that. He was like, life goes on. After that, it can be that simple. But there are coaches who will be like, hey, where is it? You'll be like, hey, there's blood on the towel. Why are you not cleaning it? You'll be like, oh, okay, relax, bro. I'm not a cleaner, but okay, I will work on that. It can get very different for certain coaches. So, but yeah, I think it's trying to find that balance, I guess. Most of the time, it's trying to get a balance to me. Yeah.
For me, my current work would be really, I'll say, more to doing things that makes the coaches' life a bit easier and manageable. So things that I'm looking at is accessibility to the facilities. For example, they probably like, for Bern, the World Championship last year, we've got so many athletes, there's so many coaches, team officials, but again, the coach corridor is so big. So definitely, we can't have everybody in. Likewise, the isolation area as well. So that's where my role is to sit down with the organizing committee to really work out, to find out what's the best solution that we could do. Because if the space is not big enough, then we think, unfortunately, having to limit the number of officials to be in, so that all countries can be in that area. So it's a lot about crowd control, access management for me, making sure that the facilities are met. So definitely, I have to be able to be trying to strike a win-win between the organizer and the coaches. Sometimes they can understand, but sometimes it's not easy. But again, I can imagine why they need certain things, for example. So that is the part that is always a challenge for me in competition. After evaluating, if I have to say no, unfortunately, I have to say no. If I could work something out, I try to work something out. Example, like this year, what was the first event again? Keqiao workout. Yeah. So, so say the security was really strict. So
I was there, yeah.
Your umbrellas, umbrellas, water bottles, everything has to be left outside the gate. So it's like, yeah, the coaches were in. They can't have umbrellas. Yeah, but you could have rain jacket. Yeah, but I can use a rain jacket for our video cameras. It's like, okay, yes, you have a point. So I have to go and talk to the organizer. Look, we need umbrella. Because they have to do that and they have to cover it. So we have that discussion and finally, okay, everybody, you can take your umbrella in, so everybody's happy. So there are things like this that I have to go with and resolve it. So it could be something that's very minute, but actually it's quite significant. So yeah, so my role has taken quite a very different role from that. And also, if I do my role well, probably they have a better experience prior to the round starts. That may translate to them feeling a bit better and a bit friendlier to our friend here.
Oh, this is just interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like you get a lot of abuse.
But to be fair, to be honest, they are really very nice people.
Yeah.
I mean, to be able to challenge the judges and to make the judges scratch their head and watch the video over and over again, I think there is merit to what
for sure
they are fighting for. And with that comes a lot of knowledge. So again, I really admire them that they are not just coaching, but they know the rules well to be able to bring it out for discussion.
Yeah, do you have much like interaction with the athletes in terms of abuse?
No, not quite. I think abuse is strong.
Yeah.
So, but I think we again, I think it's always in spur of moment, right? So I think there have been miscommunications for sure. Right? So like sometimes like you say something and then another person says something and you'd be like, what happened, right? So and then they started, throwing a tantrum and all. Of course, I can be that asshole and give them a yellow card, but obviously I'm not going to do that because,
does that ever happen?
So far, I have not given. So I've been told that I'm a bit soft on giving yellow card. You can ask Tyler about that. So Tyler Norton said that. So anyway, but I think my point is if you can kind of mitigate it first, then let's do that. I believe in democracy. So anyway, so I think a good example would be again Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City, a lot of things that happened in Salt Lake City. My first ever World Cup. So good experience for sure. So I think so what happened was it was during a speed event. So one of the Italian climbers. Okay, so it was the practice round. So before qualifications, right? So it's pretty standard that if you climb, once you fall, when I say fall, you're off the wall, your feet touch the ground, that's the end of your climb. For some strange reason, I don't know why, if any of the coaches are listening, please tell them to only stop climbing, okay? Because for some strange reason, a lot of people, because they think it's a practice, right? The moment they tap, they straight away they go again. They go up again. I mean, like, that's not allowed. And that's also one of the parts where I think the Spanish coach shouting at me, he said, why are they climbing again? He said, it's not the rules. They cannot be climbing. And then you get a lot of shit because of that. Of course, to be fair, I couldn't get in time. But of course, after that, I went to the athlete and said, you cannot do this. You're not give you the yellow card because it's disobedience, basically, right? But so that was it. So the context of bit is about athletes climbing despite falling, or climbing again despite falling, right? So what happened to this Italian climber? So this Italian athlete was like, so he came, so after that, a group of people was telling, so after that incident happened, basically, I told my officials, I said, those are the call zone. I told them, okay, they cannot climb. As in after they finish the attempt, they cannot do a re-attempt. Right? It's only one attempt, basically. So next thing you know, this Italian dude came out and he climbed and it came down and then he climbed again. Then I was like, what the hell is this guy doing? I literally told this guy not to climb. So and then I was like, I told you not to climb. Why are you climbing again? Then he started I said, your guy told me he can climb. Then I was like, who? So I went back to the call zone. So I was asking, did we tell them to climb again? Then he was like, no, I told them they can't climb. Then wait. Then after that, it became like a three-way conversation. So I was talking to my call zone IC, and I was talking to this Italian dude. I was like, you tell me who's the person who tell you can recline? Then he pointed to my call zone guy. I was like, you tell him. So in it, I was like, I'm like a therapist between two fighting couples or whatever you want to call it. And then he was like, yeah, you told me I can climb. I said, no, I told you can't climb. So it was an issue of pronunciation.
Okay. Yeah.
So you know how you say CAN''T? That guy thought was can as in CAN. Then I was like, you know what? So I told my cousin I was like, can we just say you cannot climb? So and all that, yeah, it's these kind of things. It's so trivial. It's funny, but then you know how that kind of snowballs into something else. It's like, okay, it's like lesson. So it's just an issue articulation, I guess. So yeah, I think athletes wise, and as large as possible, I think as judges or officials at least, I think we are also trained to keep our distance from them. So that kind of explains why we don't necessarily get a lot of abuse from them. They can make like whatever tantrums, like you be like, oh, say, why is that not the zone or why is that not the top? Blah, blah. I think that's pretty normal. But then, even in isolation and all that, we keep our distance. We want to talk to them after the event. I think that's fine. But as much as possible, we don't want to appear to the public, to coaches, as though we give some kind of favoritism. Because at the end of the day, we have to be neutral, right? So we cannot. Same reason why we cannot cheer when they talk good. We have to keep our faces straight and blank as possible. So, yeah.
Yeah, is that hard?
Oh yes, yeah. It's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of forgot that there's like yellow cards because I guess I never see that happen. Is that just given out for like bad behavior or like unsportsmanlike stuff? I remember during the Olympics there was like a shot of Luka Pottinger like punching the wall. Is that like yellow card worthy?
If you are showing unsportsmanlike behavior, that would constitute to a yellow card. The most basic of a yellow card infringement will be not obeying the instructions of the IFSC judge. Example, you have been called to get ready at the call zone. You are not there. The IFSC judge approaches you and tell you that you need to go to the call zone now because you have less than 5 minutes to get ready for, say, the boulder. And if you are not moving, then that could give you reasons, enough reasons for the IFSC judge to issue a yellow card. Then, what you say, it is an unsportsmanlike behavior. Again, hitting the wall. To what extent are you hitting the wall? Okay, are you just doing a step on the wall? Are you really kicking it so hard? Or are you kicking a chop back to the audiences? I think that is something that probably you will be able to see in some photos or videos. Yeah, so that is unsportsmanlike behavior. Again, the degree of the unsportsmanlike behavior, is it something that you look at it, it's like, okay, this is definitely unsportsmanlike behavior, it should not be tolerated or what. But there are times that because athletes are showing their emotion, and again, that could be something that we could just want them. So you control your emotions, for example. Yeah, if we deem that this is still something that's tolerable. Yeah, again, it is a fine line. I think we also don't want to be always going down showing yellow card to everyone, right? Yeah, and again, climbing is a really a display of emotions, whether it's not topic or whether it's not topic, as long as it's within, as long as it is tolerable, it will probably, be good.
The profanities is like the number one culprit, right? It's that over they fall, it's like on screen you can see it is like inaudible, but then you can tell for a
Is
fact
that not allowed?
it's like,
Or?
definitely it's not allowed. So like, most of the time if I hear, it's like language. Yeah, it's like you understand, you want to empathize with them, but then you have to do their job. We have to do our jobs, and at the end of the day, again, you have live streaming and all that. This kind of things will pick up. The mics are all over. So
True, yeah.
yeah, so I think you'll be surprised. I think even coming out onto the wall without your bib number also warrants you a yellow card.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So
That makes sense, I guess.
yeah.
Most yellow card that are given is due to, interestingly, different sets of uniform being worn by athletes of the same country. So you probably have like 3 or 4 athletes. Maybe they wear 2 different versions of the uniform. That's not allowed. Or the other one, they are all wearing the same uniforms. But suddenly you see one athlete has maybe another 2 logos plastered on the uniform. That's not allowed because the uniform is standardized male and the female athletes.
Well, that's not really something they can just like go and change really quick. Can they?
It is something that probably, as long as they can change it before the competition starts, as long as they are not out in the field of play in different uniforms, then that was fine.
I can't imagine why they would wear the wrong uniform unless it was just like by accident and they didn't bring the right one.
Some of them, what happened would be like, okay, maybe the federation has changed the uniform. So you've got 2 athletes, both of them for some logistical reason. One is not getting a new set of uniform, and the other one has the new set of uniform. And some in the past, some of the athletes would be like, okay, take out additional logos that is sort of like their personal sponsors. Yeah. So if we see it, sometimes during isolation, we would just ask, like, this is not the uniform that you're wearing when you're going out the field of play, right? So just to gauge, also act as a reminder. So someone said, oh no, this is a watch, I will change it. And I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, if not, then it will be like, hey, this is the only one I have. And do you have, then you know that you are not allowed to, everybody in the team has to have the same uniform. Then we have to find a way. They have to find a way. It's like, okay, you have to find a way, right? To get that new uniform. Either the 2 of you rotate the uniform, or maybe the other person has a spare set, for example. So that the problem solving will be up to them. For us, will be, okay, when you're at the field of play, we should be looking at everybody in a standardized uniform. If not, then we have to issue a yellow card. And then it goes into, if it's different uniform, then we have to start to look into it. Which one is the right one? Which we actually have a file where the federations will submit the uniform for us. So we have to, okay, this one is the right one. So it's not to award the yellow card to the wrong athlete.
Okay, wow, interesting. So yeah, some of the crazy stories that you have during the time, I guess either as judge or event delegate, either at the IFSC or locally. Any crazy stories that either of you want to get into?
Well, I'll say my craziest event would probably be the World Cup last year in Jakarta. Yeah, really for a few reasons. It was just a speed World Cup. We were really concerned with the event because we know about the weather forecast not being promising, and it being just so everybody was quite worried. So it's quite interesting because we talked to the organizers. We were like, hey, we need to really come up with a plan regarding the weather. The event is taking place in the evening. We need to have understanding for on what the contingency in place, and we really like to check with the local meteorological station on the weather forecast. So they were like, we've got everything settled. I was like, okay. So what's the plan? We've got the subject matter expert. He will be able to fix the weather. So we were like, okay. So we started to ask a bit more. In short, they got somebody with traditional wisdom, which can so-called control the weather.
Wow, really?
So like, yeah, it's all fixed. Then we were like, yeah, okay. Thank you, but I think it's not possible for me to tell the coaches and the team managers that, we've got somebody with traditional wisdom that can fix the weather. Or neither could I put this in the report if I have to cancel the event. So we were like, it's not easy. It's like they were okay. They were confident. I get it. But again, I need some actual information for us to make contingency and stuff. So it took us really a very long while for us to really get some scientific reports. I had to talk about things as in traditional and scientific terms for us to make the decision. So we had the qualification ran. Semi-final, we were expecting to have rain. Interestingly, 3 hours before, it was a very big rain. And suddenly it stopped, giving us enough time to play. I think we rescheduled the competition probably an hour before it just stopped. And we were able to actually clean up the field of play in time for the finals. Is it the weather report? Is it the traditional wisdom? I don't know. Yeah, and also same event. That was the first time that it's quite usual that if the IFSC board members is not around, the event delegate would have to be involved in a few ceremonial rules that include being the presenter for the awarding ceremony and the opening ceremony. So I had Alexandra, who was the sports operations manager from the IFSC office with me. So that was the first day of competition. We were having some discussion. And the organizer came, hey, both of you are invited for the opening ceremony of the World Cup. We're like, okay, sure. And so we went there. So I thought that, okay, probably go there just to sit and grace the event, with performance. In Asia, we always have opening ceremony performance. So that was it. Then it was later that I realized that we had to be part of the opening ceremony. So in this opening ceremony, they have a skit where there's this skit about the competition taking place, and you have this bad character who is going to disrupt the competition. And Alexandro and I have to get into a spa with the two henchmen. So we had to rehearse it, and literally I had to grab the knife from him and actually so-called stab the henchman. So it's like we becoming a performer in the opening ceremony. So I have the photo that I sent you. So but unfortunately it didn't kickstart any any acting opportunities.
Okay.
My acting really suck.
I've never, so I saw like an opening ceremony in Keqiao. That was like one of the World Cups I'd went to in person. Is it like does that only happen in Asia? Like I didn't see any opening ceremonies anywhere else. So
Yeah. So far, for Asia, like Indonesia, China, the opening ceremony would usually comprises for one or two performance. Yeah, that is done by probably a local group. They just to showcase the culture. Yeah, so I'll give that a little more common than what we had. So in Europe, probably you have an opening ceremony. You just walk the flag ceremony. There are probably some speeches to kickstart. Yeah, but over here, this tends to be a bit more elaborate. I think the performance and probably driving the speech by the dignitaries as well.
makes sense. And yeah, so going back to like the rain issue, that kind of happens a lot, like almost all the time. There's always like a rain concern. Um how is this not fixed at all? I mean, because like yeah, you had to cancel an entire round in Keqiao. That makes it pretty difficult. I think even recently, like in Innsbruck, there was a big delay.
Yeah, so first of all, to really fix this problem to fix this problem, you probably need to have all IFSC events being organized indoors at the indoor stadium or something. And it's not very cheap to have IFSC events in indoor stadium. It's going to be cost a lot for the organizers. Probably there are gyms that is big enough that's good. But if you're organizing in gyms, the constraint you will not allowed to have so many spectators. Could be maybe 400, and that's the max. So that's why I'll say that having competitions outdoor is still considered a viable option, because if you find a big space, you set up the wall, you could have for 5,000 people. And because this is an open space, like the last two competitions in Jakarta, the cost to rent space would be minimal, right? You need to pay some miscellaneous charge for the cleaning services. But if you want to book an indoor stadium like PPC Arena in France, this could be quite a lot. And if you think about it, 3 days of competition, 5 days of setting, plus another 3 days of construction, that's a week. Yeah, so that is the challenges. That's why competitions are still being organized outdoors. If it's outdoor, having rain, I think that is definitely that's a drawback. Which again, because we're using a temporary venue, we can't have a growth that's as big as possible. Keqiao, unfortunately, I would say that it's really a bit unfortunate, because you've been there, you've known that it is considered an indoor facility. But if listeners can check some of the photos of the venue, is that you have a big hole in the center. In short, this hole, if it rains, everybody gets wet. The spectators that is sitting at the terraces, right? The spectators that's standing just right in front of the field of play, and also the field of play as well. You probably also see that when it rains, water rather than funnel to drain outwards, it's actually draining inwards as well. So I would say that, yeah, that is really unfortunate. You have a nice place, but due to probably engineering or design, the place couldn't be dry enough to give the athletes the perfect competition that they deserve. So I'll say that it's a pity. And I really hope that we had the same. This venue was built for the Asian Games last year. We had to unfortunately cancel the final round for the women's golden league. So the medals were awarded based on the semi-final results. A stage, I would say a cover was built for, we have this cover to block the rain in the Keqiao World Cup, but it's not enough because the floor gets wet, so athletes coming out for cause of quite a challenge for them to get to the field of play without the mats, without the shoes being wet, even with that big shelter, part of the wall would still be subjected to rain. So again, I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping that could be resolved. Yeah, for future events.
Why don't you guys just like hire the person who knows how to make the rain go away?
Yes, maybe that could be a way. Huh?
I think you should reach out to him again.
I think they should share a bit of resources here where we get the wise men to go over to Keqiao and try it out.
Yeah, exactly.
It will put the weather that it did.
Yeah, I mean, it worked the first time, so maybe there is something to it. Okay, Zul, any examples from you in mind?
We among ourselves, the local judges, we have this running joke about how in order for you to pass one of the judges' course, you need to do this one particular event that all of us did, which was one of the, it wasn't a IFSC com, but it was a continental event, but it was super bad where, in that sense, where, so in a nutshell, the shittiest thing that happened was, so it was a mixture of boulder, lead, and speed, alright? But during the lead event, the Belayers literally walked out of the event. And they did not want, they kind of went to protest. Well, yeah, so I think it was some politics thing. So they'd be like, you know, F you up, we're not going to delay. And then we were like, huh? How do you ever run the event? And then next thing, and then the JP, the TD at the point of time had to tell the coaches that, you know what, this is what happens. So, and then it ended up with the coaches themselves belaying the athletes. Yeah, and now like, okay. It's like, sure. It's like, yeah, it was, I don't know, maybe it was a money issue where, I don't know. It could be a lot of things. So, but definitely not within our control as technical officers, for sure. In fact, I was not even a full-fledged judge at that point of time. I was there to take a course, which I failed the first time. Yeah, so yeah, that con was quite iconic because it's like I went overseas and then I was working with another senior judge, one of my mentors, and then this random dude was like asking us during dinner. It was like, so, which is the worst con you've done? The moment I looked at him, I was like, you know what I was going to say. And he was like, I know what you're going to say. You know, that it's to that level, right? So it was crazy. Like, you know, I think the one underlying thing that a lot of people don't realize with regards to competitions in general is the amount of politics involved. So yeah, going into this also deals, you have to kind of deal with that. And I think that's where you kind of to put it very nicely, you have to play your cards well, right? You need to know who you should appease. You should know who's to not to, I guess, in the right books, I guess. But that's not to say you should be pushover and just do every single thing somebody asks you to do, right? But anyway, before the rest, so that same competition, so that competition was practical for our course. So Continental Judges course, so in case we didn't cover early on. So basically, let's say if you're already a full-fledged national judge, let's say you're ready to go to the next level at the discretion of your national federation, they can probably offer you or recommend you to go to the Continental course. So right now it's a bit iffy because I don't know what exactly IFSC is doing. They might have their own pathway to begin with, but back then, during my time at least, we had this Continental Judges course, so it's just one tier above, right? So if you pass that course, you essentially become what you are now, your IFSC level 1 judge. So as mentioned earlier on, you're only doing continental events at that level, right? So that course, you take the theory course. So there's an exam and all that, and then you had to do a practical. The practical is actually running the whole event of the competition. So interestingly enough, that was where we had, as I mentioned, we didn't have control as to how Belayers can walk out of the event. But for me, I was also being assessed, right? So the funny thing was we knew that we were gonna fail. So I said I already failed. And then we were still told to run the event. So what was funny was that I had my counterpart, my friend, also from Singapore, who went to take the course. So basically he passed, I failed. So right, so I mean there's a cohort basically. So I think a good 10 of us. So out of those 10, I think probably only 4 of them passed. So he was one of them. So the funny thing was we basically look kind of similar, both two brown guys. And then what was funny was, so the assessor was telling me, I said, okay, you do lead event, you run the whole show. I'm like, what are you asking me to do? I'm like, oh, okay, fine. But I've done it anyway. So I did it anyway. And long story short, I did it well enough to be considered as a pass. But that pass wasn't for me, but was for my friend. So, and then I was like, after the event, I was like, why do you ask me to do it? I said, I failed the course. You realize it? I said, wait, you're not this guy? I'm like, yeah, I'm not this guy. So, yeah. So I kind of made my friend pass. So, yeah. And then, yeah. So I think and there were minor stuff like how when I was judging, I was the boulder judge. And then a Thai female climber was sitting in line. It was a rotation format, right? And she had an asthma attack. Then I was like, I was like, are you okay? And then I'm like, how do I react? It's like, of course, it was my first time, right? I was like, should I take care of this? But then I need to judge. So do I like, it's like, yeah, it was a bit chaotic in that sense. Thankfully, the coach was right behind. I was like, you need to handle this. So we kind of give it, yeah. So, and then I think there was not a crazy story, but kind of funny. Same thing, Salt Lake City. So what happened was during one, I can't recall whether it was a speed event. I'm not sure which round. I will send you timestamp. There was a bee. A bee was flying and going into the peanut hole. And all that was caught on screen. The camera guy was zooming in into the bee, and I was like, okay. And the funny thing, I was on the ground, and I was like, why? So it was, I think, Giulia Randy from Italy. She was gonna compete with the female Chinese climber, the English one. So it was before the round, and then I was like, why does Julia look super uneasy? You know, she felt as though like there was something, and I was like, oh, there's a bee. Then at the top of my mind, I was like, please do not sting anyone because I don't want to handle an appeal where, you know, it's like, oh, I got stung by a bee, and then now I have to, do a whole new rerun or whatsoever, right? So it's, yeah. it was super funny, and everything was caught on live stream. It's like immortalized on the live screen. Of course, it was nice to have the USAC guys, Black Tie Hathaway, who's doing your world Belayer thing. His crew was like trying to show or shush away that bee, and he did it once, and then it came back. And then another guy was like, I think Steve went in and was like, and for some reason, took like 3 guys to like remove the bee, And then there was one time, everyone started clapping. Good job. Trevor was one of it. I think from USDC, I was like, it's like kind of saved the day. I was like, what the hell? I was like, all because of bee.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think to be fair, I was also told you can't, because in US you have like state laws and all that stuff. Like this could be. I also learned that you can't just kill it because they could be protected species and all that. So you can't get fined. And I'm like, I'm not gonna get the IFSC fine for killing a bee.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Right? So that sort of thing. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a lot of funny things that happen. So, but the Belayers walking out will be the top of my list.
All right. Well, thank you for the stories. So yeah, now moving forward, looking ahead into the future of IFSC and judging, anything that you would like to see changed to make either your lives easier or any ideas you have to improve it?
I think the main bulk of our work is still, as mentioned, to deal with appeals and all that. So I think if there's a way to kind of mitigate or reduce the effort needed for that, I think that would help tremendously. Because I think just to share a bit on what's the current process, we still have video cameras to record each of the estates client. But what we have to do now is we always have to, let's say they are done, or in some cases you have to wait until the lane is cleared before we can review the video. That whole process itself is really very, very time consuming. That's one. But the actual problem relies on the viewing of the athlete's video. So you have to look into it, you have to find it, find which, for bowler it could be which attempt, for lead it would be like at which particular point. Of course, yeah, if you know the person got somewhere on the hit wall, then obviously you kind of fast forward to that part. But I think all that stuff, how do we then make it easier, faster, and more efficient? Because right now it feels a lot more manual in that sense. I guess it kind of comes with the sport. But if, let's say, for example, we were talking about it previously, like what if we had something like what FIFA has, the VAR system, it's maybe something that you can tie in with AI. Let's say you need a particular data set of all the different types of appeal and what is the result. Can that camera system register and then recommend a result or a score, for example? So then obviously you still need that human to go and verify, okay, so this is correct, for example. So of course, it is a proprietary idea. Maybe whoever decide to make this 10% finder's fee for us, okay? Anyway, it could be that. It could be that. So it's just making things a lot more efficient, at least on my end. Yeah, because we're always constantly running and all that. So, don't know about you, Stanley?
Well, we talk about distribution of information. That's where I think probably you spoke to Matt. Matt told you about incidents like something that's happening on the field play, but it's not in plan. Usually I would like write pieces of paper, drop over there, because being a delegate, I will probably be the one that's the boat between the field play and where he is. There needs to be probably, I'll say, a more centralized distribution of information. Look, if you see what Formula One is doing, when there's a potential incident that they need to investigate, start to have crawler that's coming up to say, okay, this driver is being investigated for potential violation. I think that would be something that would be interesting having it being set to, and in this case, having this on the screen where spectators know. Because again, when we're talking about sports, it's not just the action, but it's the information as well. So when you're watching, something happens, it should be coming out right. Likewise, the appeal system, probably we're still doing a bit more manual. So if everything can be a bit more streamlined, integrated, where you could put in the coaches could put in the appeal, probably send it via an app to
digitally.
the jury president, maybe give him an electric shock or something, so that he knows, oh, I'm receiving an appeal. Then okay, if it's accepted, zap back at him. If it's rejected, zap the coaches twice. Yeah, something like this. Yeah.
Oh,
And jokes
no.
aside, so at least have something that is a bit more streamlined, and all this could be in a centralized information. We've been in our second Olympics. We are going to LA. I really hope that we could get 3 medals, so that the boulder at speed can be independently presented. I think that the athletes has been working very hard for the last 6-8 years. When we had Tokyo, they have to adapt by incorporating speed into their training, and for speed athletes having to attempt to lead as well. Here in Paris, we have a standalone for speed, but modality is still called S1. I think they should be given the opportunity to compete in these 3 disciplines separately. That's something that's my wish. The other thing that I really hope is that, again, with us being more popular now, I hope that it is a good time to actually prioritize the athletes' prize money for the future events. I think what they should be given a lot more. Maybe we can't prioritize it in the last 4 to 6 years because there are more urgent things that we need to do. But now we have got more eyeballs. People are talking about sports climbing. Hope this is a good time for that.
Yeah, sports.
All right, cool. Those are all the questions I had. A couple quick Discord questions that we can go through. So the first one, how different are World Cups depending on who's organizing them? And what are your most chaotic experiences with event organizers?
If the World Cup is organized, if it's European, interestingly, I haven't been to the American World Cups. I've been to a couple of the European World Cups. If you're going to the European World Cups, it's like we've planned everything. Our trip literally from the airport all the way to the venue, the official hotel. In Asia, depending. In Japan, I've been to Japan. That's where I'll make my way all the way to Hachioji last year. Jakarta, you probably have somebody. So there would be some organizers who would be offering pickup service. So there's somebody to pick you up. Yeah, so that actually saves you that planning and coordinating. So like in China, there's always somebody would pick you up from the airport. Yeah. And the dynamics of each organization is actually very, very different. You have the national federations who, in a way, are always the fronting the organizing of the competition, but they'll probably be working with the local club, like Germany, for example. You have FFME that is forming a competition committee, but then in the actual execution, you will be working with the strong team to co-run the event. So So this is where it's interesting because I'll say that in Europe, everything will be more systematic. You would need a lot of autonomy and initiative to probably find your way in the planning process, but working with everyone, it seems like they know what to do. And I'll say across Europe, it is quite uniform in how you do things and you work and collaborate with various stakeholders. In Asia, it could be quite different. Sometimes it's only one, two, or three key person that has all the information, and you need to go to them to actually solve those problems. So again, we have quite a lot of events in China. So one of the challenges would be if you're going to different places in China, it does work a bit differently. So for me, my advantage is because I speak Chinese, which is their native language. So I would still be able to communicate to the people on the ground. Yeah, so I'll say that dynamics is probably quite different depending on which country. And also with this, that also means that we have to always remain very adaptable and also be a bit to have that awareness of that culture, the working culture as well.
And then most chaotic experiences with event organizers?
I felt that, again, going back to Keqiao, because I've got two chaotic experience in Keqiao that resulted in me having to cancel at least one round of competition. So Keqiao playing for the Asian Games, it was so chaotic that it rained so much that the reason we have to cancel the competition was literally, if you look at the boulder wall, the water is seeping out from the front of the wall, because when we announced that to the coaches that we have to cancel it, the coaches requested to be brought out to take a look at the wall because they need to prepare reports. You see, and splits go up, and you can see that it's like literally like the boulder was crying, through the boat holes. Yeah. So I would say that is always chaotic, because if you look at the facility, you look at the event, to you it's like, hey, it's a stadium that is built just for climbing. You sort of have that full confidence that this is how future sports climbing events should be in such a venue. But yet, the architecture didn't do the venue and the sports enough justice. And of course, when it rains, first of all, you have to keep everything as dry as possible. You need to keep everybody in. You need to start to sit down and make decisions really fast. And everybody's like, oh, what's happening? Yeah, so that is always the most chaotic for me.
Yeah, so I think, well, I'm still doing World Cup, so I can't say for certain, but I think largely, I think it depends on the event organizer whether they're experienced or not. Because ironically, one of the comms, I think that same year that a particular country had a World Cup, and that same year, later part of the year, they had a continental event, but it was such a distinct difference. We don't know what happened in terms of whether because there are different camps in the whole organization or different teams. So sometimes you may get different kind of experiences in that sense. But I think that kind of translates into what you need to do also, because regardless of whether it's an international event or whether it's a local event, the organizer's experience will determine how much workload you need to do. Because if it's my first time, let's say I'm an organizer, it's my first time organizing a competition, I wouldn't know nuts about how to run an event. So there's a lot more hand holding, there's a lot more like going back and forth, trying to tell them like, okay, why you should be doing this? Why should you not be doing this. So we're always going into that lens from an events management view. And I think a lot of people don't realize this or don't know this. But for us as judges, especially, even at my level, a good 70% of it's events management. The judging is only 30%. So it's really looking at it from a flow perspective. What if it rains? Can the athlete walk here? Can they see the wall? All that stuff has to be taken into account. But yeah, so I think really it differs from organizers to organizers for sure. Idiotic event, I can't say per se, but then I think Asian Games last year was, I think kind of piggybacking on his experience as well. It was sad because when Stanley came in to tell the coaches, they say, guys, we need to cancel the event. The athletes visibly looked upset, obviously, right? But they were so looking forward to climb to the extent they came to us. Can we still climb now in the rain? And we were like, of course, we're gonna say no because the liability safety issue, right? So it's this kind of things that I wouldn't want to be in that position as well. They flew all the way in, they fly in, do one round of qualifications and finals, and then suddenly finals, you're gonna go home. Or stuff like that. And there was also the same event that because of the rain, I had to judge in the raincoat. Never have I judged in a raincoat before. So it's like, it was raining, everything was just dripping wet, and then you had a tablet, and then you have my judge still had to key in.
That's annoying.
Scoring, right? And I'm like, that shit better not get water inside, it's like, if not, it's gonna screw up everything. So
you're lucky the water didn't fill up the trench.
Yeah.
See the trench?
So in Keqiao, so the judges are
I
sitting. It's like a long ass bathtub. If it depends on how you look at it. So we were in there, right? So and we couldn't move, as then had to wear a raincoat and everything, right? I was like wiping stuff on my judge to it was all over the place. Yeah, we made it, but
it's really uncomfortable. I remember even just like watching, it was really uncomfortable. I was kind of miserable.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
There was one about if national federations should be the ones organizing World Cups, or if other, I guess maybe like corporations are viable.
Okay. So I know that previously for all the World Cup application, it needs to be submitted by the National Federation. So that means that with that process, that means that if there is a commercial organization that wishes to organize it, probably they'll need to work with the National Federation, right? Then to make an application. I've seen last year's application form that's available on IFSC. It did states that the application seems to be now probably broadened to not just the federation, but probably the city councils as well. So that could be like, for example, City of Madrid wanting to apply for IFSC World Cup instead of the French Federation. I think that probably is a possibility right now. So seems like this probably IFSC is actually looking at probably partnering different stakeholders to organize more events in this case.
Neom considered.
Oh yeah, is that an example of it?
Right, kind of, right?
Yeah, Neom could be interesting. So that Neom is in the IFSC together, so that would probably be the case. Because if you look at the information from Neom, there wasn't a lot of mention regarding the National Federation, which is the Saudi Climbing Federation.
Okay, cool. Any other final thoughts?
Yeah, people has always been asking. Well, I always have friends who's coming in. Hey, why are you here in Singapore? You're not Slovenia. Are you not in Cooper or whatever? Yeah. So actually, I don't go to everywhere. I think there are 5 event delegates, so I think we rotate the events. A lot of sometimes people's been asking me, oh, what do I do? How do I get to become IFSC judge and stuff? So like I said, I shared at the beginning that actually becoming an IFSC judge is only a start of the journey. Yeah. Being an IFSC judge on paper doesn't mean that you get nominated immediately. So it took me really a few years to get my first nomination, a few years to get my second nomination before I was engaged a bit more regularly. So it's really a lot of patience and also at the same time a lot of self-development. You need to be constantly engaging yourself in competitions. Nowadays, you have much better resources because you have YouTube. If it's not Joe Blog, at least in Asia, you'll be able to access IFSC brands on YouTube. So that gives you a very good resources to looking at the rounds and comparing the results based on your own judgment. And it's also important that to move to, say, if you aspire to be IFSC judge level, it's not just judging, but you need to have an overview of the entire competition process. So literally, it means from the point that the athletes check it into the warming up isolation until the end. So you need to know everything. Yeah, sure. With that process, understanding that process would help you to have a clear idea of how you conceptualize certain things. That helps you with your decision-making process, and of course, a big part is the problem solving.
I think, so I think it's really important to constantly update yourself, be in the know of what's happening, right? So I think that even on my end, I can personally say that because because I need to be aware, because it's like, you don't want to end up being passive, right? So you, as I mentioned earlier on, you're doing a facing role, right? So you want to be a bit more active in that sense. So I personally watch the YouTube live streams. To be fair, my commitments might be slightly different. I can wake up at 2 a.m. in Singapore just to watch the live. But that's because I choose to do it, right? Of course, no one's stopping you to watch the replays, but then at the time, you didn't know the results. So spoiler. Okay, anyway. But I think words of wisdom, I would say I personally can attest to this because I started from the bottom, right? So I was a national judge, still a national judge, I mean. I went to Continental, and then through recommendations and all that, I was shortlisted to get into promotion, right? So in all that years, I think a lot of times I kept that mindset of take what you can. So it came to a point where if they appoint you, just take it. Because to me, that's like you play games, that's basically getting XP, getting experience, right? No matter where you go, you're going to get experience. And every competition is going to be different for sure. And patience is definitely one of it, because you don't become an IFSC judge. You don't be a judge for that matter overnight. Right? So you need to have patience not only in terms of the process, but with people who probably look down on you because of your age. I've had judges who blatantly ignore me and shoo me away because they thought I was some stranger on the ground, only to find out later on when they had problems, they came to me. Then they realized like, oh, okay, so you're the IFSC judge. I was like, oh wow, now that you realize it. So that sort of thing. So like for me, yeah, I'm 33 this year, so considered one of the younger judges. Typically, judges in the whole area, they tend to be slightly older than I am.
Interesting.
So I think I guess age, as much as age is a number, it is also a number, right? Where it can be an issue where people will be like, can you really believe this guy? But I think that's where you have to prove yourself. But if you can make it, you can make it. You cannot, means you cannot. So, so patience, dedication, relentlessness, I guess. You have to be hungry for it. So if not,
Yeah.
it's not there.
Yeah, it's a lot of work for not much recognition.
It's sacrifice.
Yeah, well, I think that is everything I had then. That's all the questions I had. Thanks for joining me. Do you want to let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with my personal Instagram. So yeah, I post nonsense once in a while. So yeah, but yeah, can put that link.
Yeah, you can just put the link. If they need to approach me or if they need to get the national federations to reach out to me or anything, yeah, I'm happy. So if they have questions, yeah, feel free to write to me. I'll be happy to reply. Although, yeah, my Instagram account, I don't really actually put a lot of photos, but I'm still responsive to messages.
I will link those below in case people have questions. Okay, thank you. Amazing to talk to you guys.
All right, thank you so much, Jenny. Okay, thank you, Jenny.
Thank you so much for making it to the end of the podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Otherwise, you are a super fake climber. If you're listening on a podcasting platform, I'd appreciate if you rate it 5 stars, and you can continue the discussion on the free competition climbing Discord linked in the description. Thanks again for listening.